cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day, as the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea. Well, I shall sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads. And know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Some children grow up strong and bold, while some are quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some take it slow, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, and some men love men. Some leave every label behind. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts or games, but seek out spirits true. For if you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody that you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads. And know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Oh.
Connor, can you see if my mic is on, please? So that's the message that we're trying to teach this little one, and the message that we all need to hear as we are reminded. So as we move deeper into this service, we are dreaming about what is possible for us as individuals and us as a community. Part of being a community is helping hold one another through all of what it is to be human. We do that here at UU Mount Airy, building beloved community through a ritual called Joys and Sorrows. If this is your first time with us, you're invited to stay in the pews if you like, or if you want, you can come up by this side aisle, grab a stone from the basket here, take a second to let it become infused with whatever you need to be possible. Someone who's on your heart or something that you need, a great feeling, a joy, or a sorrow that you'd like to share. And if it's especially moving, you can speak right into this microphone. Let us know your name and what you're feeling or who you're thinking about this week. Please be mindful that we are recording this service and live streaming it. It's not going everywhere on the internet, but it's not just us here in the sanctuary. If that's an issue, I can bring you the microphone to your pew. But if you do feel called to come up by the side aisle and grab a stone, you're invited to share and then return to your pew, or just to sit and listen to the contemplative music, and we'll gather afterwards for a small moment of reflection. Come, come, whoever you are, the table of joys and sorrows is open.
My name's Lila, but I'm actually sharing somebody else's joy. Marianne and Pat had their baby. So they wanted everybody to know that she arrived yesterday morning. Everybody's doing well, and her name is Adeline. So.
Hello, I'm Sandy Fulton, and I now live in Stapley, and I like it very much, and I think you too would like it if you visited and maybe even followed in my tracks. I want to read something, but I'm going to postpone that until I get a signal that they want me to do that. So, but it is a wonderful, wonderful book, and I am so proud that I've read it twice in 1 month.
Hi, I'm Beth. I'm newer to this congregation, but my friend from Connecticut is coming this week, and she wants to see the Liberty Bell.
Hello, my name is Ellen, and it's my mother's 98th birthday this week, and it's a hard life for her the last several years, but she's right out my back door now at Stapley, and I moved her from Minneapolis about 11 years ago, and it was a good move for us to be able to be together for these last years.
I'm Linda. My day job is as an Italian interpreter, and I often go to CHOP. And this week was kind of special in that a clinical trial that I've been interpreting for 15 years is coming to a close, and there was kind of a ending celebration, and I knew about it. I had some role in organizing it. And I thought that there'd be a lot of thanks going to the surgeon and surgeon thanking the patients, and I was prepared mentally for that. And then 2 patients got up and said in Italian super nice things about me, and I had to interpret that. It was like, what? It was,
Bernadette, I just want to honor the work that it takes to find the balance between experiencing the joys and dealing with the challenges.
I'm Annie, and I would like to once again send out love to Gary Sobolo. I am also doing a joy because I get to be an RE today and help paint birdhouses. So this is for the children in RE.
Hi, I'm Jane, and I just want to share and actually put in a plug for Quintessence Theater that is showing The Hypochondriac, and it is so funny. It'll just have you laughing without stopping. So if you can get to it, I think it ends on the 10th of May, I'm not sure, but it's so great. It's at the Sedgwick, so it's in the Mount Airy Commercial District between Allen's Lane and Mount Pleasant. So hope you can make it.
Good morning, my name is Anam. Something notable for me and a joy. I guess what's notable for me, this is, even though it's not exactly the anniversary that I think of when, my official anniversary of this, but I started just sort of in light of the climate justice revival and everything, I started my vegan journey in April of 2019, so and it's been probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I feel like it was, for me, the best thing as one individual person that I could do for the environment. And I know it's not everyone's path, but it became mine, and I'm very happy about that. And a quick joy, I went to visit my father-in-law for the first time in his new facility. He's doing great. He's very happy. The concierge there is sort of helping to mend a relationship between him and his youngest son in a really wonderful way, and I brought BB with me for the visit, and it was just a wonderful time, and I'm so happy and grateful and relieved.
I'm Kathy. I went north for the last week to Boston. They're about a month behind spring. So when I drove up Lincoln Drive this morning, I was just like overwhelmed by the joy of green, you know? And it also made me feel like, you know, like the trees came back. It's like they forgive us. And it's like they don't know what else to do. It's the only thing they know how to do. And it just was such a blessing. Serendipity that it's on our inauguration of our climate justice revival.
From our friends online, Sharon Fisher shares that she's getting ready for her trip to Ireland this afternoon and looking forward to a new adventure. So we send our blessings to Sharon as well. We will drop a final stone in the bowl for all those joys and sorrows not shared out loud. Would you join me in a moment of stillness? Find a comfortable position, whatever feels right for your body. Pay special attention to your feet, connected to the floor, connected to the ground, the earth upon which we all live and move and make our way. And as you breathe in stillness, I invite you to find the sacredness of this moment in this space with these people. the sacredness that we call God, that we call beauty, that we call nature, that we call community, for the sacredness of all that it is to be human and to be human together. We lift up our joys and sorrows. Blessed be. Amen. All right. If we have children of any age, if you're new here, when we do a story for all ages, if you're feeling brave and you want to come down here and listen to the story, you're invited to come pull up a little bit of carpet. Hey, back this way. Thank you. And I have a story to tell you about an event we're having this week. And it includes a diorama and some visual aids and some puppets. Come on down. Okay, I want to tell you a story about a place called Fern Gully. This is Fern Gully. And I'm going to tell you a story about a fairy who lives in Fern Gully. Her name is Krista. This is Krista. She's a fairy, and when she flies, Krista lives here in Fern Gully. But Fern Gully is in a forest. And the forest has some creatures that live in it. This is a bat named Coda, Batty Coda. He's pretty silly. He flies around, and sometimes he lives in the trees in Fern Gully. But Fern Gully is in the middle of a forest. And sometimes there are humans who drive big bulldozers or come with things that can chop down trees, and they make loud noises. And one day, Krista wakes up and finds that there are bad noises outside of Fern Gully. So she flies to see what's happening. And she finds a young boy, and his name is Zach. Zach is working for a company that has these big machines that make these loud noises. And Zach's job is to cut down the trees. And he comes to the trees that are on the outside of Fern Gully. And Krista says, "Stop!" And she uses her magic. And she accidentally makes Zach grow from being a big human person to being very small, the size of a fairy. And she, Krista, and Batty Coda, and Zach, they have to go on an adventure, and they have to learn how to save Fern Gully from the machines that are trying to cut down the trees. Does that sound like a good story? Well, if you want to learn more about this story and hear how it ends, we're not going to finish it today. But we have a family movie night this Friday right here in the sanctuary. And we are going to learn more about the story of Fern Gully and learn about how we can help protect our trees and all the fern gullies of our world. Does that sound good? Do you want to come to family movie night on Friday with me? That would be really fun. Okay, for all of our friends who are here in this diorama, for the trees, for the Batty Codas, for the fairies, Krista, and for Zach, can we say a big amen? Amen. Thank you, friends. We are going to invite you downstairs to go get your painting birdhouses on with Teacher Iz and Miss Annie. And we are going to invite anyone who wants to come to family movie night this Friday to learn more about Fern Gully to please follow up with us after the service. What's up? You want to go downstairs? Okay, we're going to sing our song and you can go downstairs. We're going to sing our song as we sing our kids off to their RE classes. If you know the words, would you sing along with me? As you leave this space, know that you belong. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are loved. As you leave this space, know that you belong. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are loved. Thank you. I'm going to invite our choir forward for their offering of special music. Do we need a microphone, Nate? Turn it off. Thank you, choir. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so this is the time in our service when we take up our offering of financial resources. We have just finished our pledge drive and part of our stewardship campaign where we're helping to forecast our budget for the next year. So if you have not filled out a pledge, either using our online system or putting in a piece of paper to Lynn Reeser, our treasurer, or to Mike in the office, please do so. We have had a great turnout. I don't know the exact numbers, but we've increased in pledge units so far. And I know there were still a few that we were expecting, like mine hadn't been counted yet, but I got that in. So if you have not done your pledge unit, please fill it out. Even if you're just saying, I don't know how much I can give. There's so much going on in the world. I can only pledge $1. Pledge $1. Because the number of pledge units that we have helps us not only with our budget numbers and kind of seeing who's around, it also helps us become eligible for different kinds of grant money from state organizations. So please fill out a pledge if you have not. Separately, we're going to pass the plate here in the sanctuary. And the way that we do the weekly offering here at UU Mount Airy goes to 2 different places. Anything that you put into the white envelopes that are you can mark change for change. We have more white envelopes that are at the rear of the sanctuary if someone needs one. An usher can get one and give it to you. Anything you put in those white envelopes and any pocket change you put into the plate goes towards a different organization each month. For the month of April, it's Juntos, that does lots of great immigrant justice work here in our community and in the surrounding communities. So we invite you to give as you are willing and able to that. Anything else you put into the plate goes towards the operating fund of this congregation. We know there are lots of ways to give back. The giving of monies is just one. Friends who are online, you can follow the instructions that are on your screen to do so wherever you are. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you all. But Susan Berry Ford, and as Susan gets herself ready, I just want to again say that there's been a team of us that gathered starting a few months ago. For Susan, actually, it was longer ago than that. And we got approached by a group that wanted to help us apply for a grant from the William Penn Foundation to do climate resilience work, and I didn't know what that meant. And so I went to Susan, and she helped me understand it. And we've learned a lot about it. So this has been kind of a process. We had this climate justice revival idea last year, not knowing what it was going to look like, not knowing what the world was going to look like. So it's been a labor of love and learning, and we're still trying to figure it out. So we're very excited to just share what's been meaningful for us, and so glad to have Susan be a part of our planning team. So we welcome Susan Berry Ford, who is usually having to work right now, and we are so glad to have her with us again this morning. Susan.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be with you this morning and glad to have this opportunity to share some reflections. As you know, this past Wednesday was Earth Day. You may not know that it was the 56th anniversary of Earth Day. On that day in 1970, 20 million Americans gathered in the streets, parks, and auditoriums to demonstrate against the cascading negative consequences of 150 years of unchecked industrial development on our environment and human health. According to earthday.org, groups that had been fighting individually against oil spills, polluting factories and power plants, raw sewage, toxic dumps, pesticides, freeways, the loss of wilderness, and the extinction of wildlife united on Earth Day around shared common values. Earth Day 1970 achieved a rare political alignment, enlisting support from Republicans and Democrats, rich and poor, urban dwellers and farmers, business and labor leaders. The first Earth Day marked the dawn of our modern environmental movement and remains the largest secular protest in U.S. history. Remarkably, by the end of 1970, the U.S. government had created the Environmental Protection Agency and passed key legislation, including the National Environmental Education Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, and the Clean Air Act. The Clean Water Act followed 2 years later. Climate action began to coalesce internationally, too, with the UN taking a leading role with the launch of its environmental conference in 1972. As the science of climate change and the centrality of greenhouse gas emissions became clearly established, the UN formed its Climate Change Framework Convention in 1994, the UNFCCC, as well as its decision-making body, the Conference of Parties, or COP, in 1995. Over the past 3 decades, the participating countries at COP have generated significant international resolutions to combat climate change. You may remember the Kyoto Protocol, 1997, the Paris Agreement, 2015, the Loss and Damage Fund, 2022, and the International Agreement to Phase Out Fossil Fuels, 2023. This greatest hits timeline brings us into a present moment in which the U.S., despite some chilly days here in the Northeast, has just experienced the second hottest winter on record and the driest in history. Meteorologists are watching with concern what appears to be a rapidly building super El Nino in the Pacific and the potential collapse of an essential current system in the Atlantic, the AMOC. Both point to the likelihood of weather chaos to come. Meanwhile, the EPA has reversed a long-standing climate change finding, the endangerment finding, stripping its own ability to regulate emissions, while FEMA has faced billions of dollars in cuts even prior to the current funding lapse. At COP30 last November, billed as the COP of Truth, fossil fuel lobbyists outnumbered every country delegation except that of Brazil, the host country. From the US, 0 delegates were in attendance. The results were unsurprisingly disappointing. A planned roadmap to phase out fossil fuels was excluded from the final agreement after intense opposition from a bloc of petrostates and oil-producing nations, and the conference concluded with a watered-down deal that focused primarily on climate finance and adaptation instead of the elephant in the room. I doubt that anyone came here today to listen to a lecture on the history of the environmental movement, and I didn't really set out to give one, nor do I mean to cast a cloud over your Sunday morning by spouting dire climate predictions. But I find this context helpful in thinking about the work of local activist Eileen Flanagan and in reflecting on her latest book, Common Ground: How the Crisis of the Earth is Saving Us from Our Illusion of Separation. Personally, I was drawn to the book wanting to understand how someone who spent years on the front lines of the climate fight manages to maintain such a hopeful perspective. Eileen Flanagan is an award-winning author, speaker, and leader of spiritually grounded activism and a Northwest Philadelphia resident. As a leader with the Chestnut Hill-based Earthquaker Action Team, or EQUATE, she has played key leadership roles in several climate campaigns, including an ongoing campaign to demand meaningful climate action from Vanguard, the world's largest investor in fossil fuels. So, what does it mean to say that the crisis of the Earth is saving us from our illusion of separation? What is the nature of that illusion, and how are we being saved? In her introduction to the book, Eileen recalls the remarks of Jacqueline Thomas, chief and elder of the Secoos people, speaking at a 2013 DC climate march. As a leader of an alliance of Canadian First Nations who were resisting a multi-billion-dollar pipeline intended to pump carcinogenic tar sands oil to the coast, Thomas ironically thanked the Enbridge Corporation, the proposed builder of the pipeline, saying, "Enbridge has really brought our communities together in Canada. Never in my life have I seen white and Native work together before now." The campaign ultimately succeeded in stopping the pipeline. Inspired by this alliance and other examples of people joining together across lines of difference to resist destructive forces, Eileen set out to learn from activists on the front lines of climate actions how we can make such collaborations stronger and more common, how to find common ground. In her accounts of actions all over the country and abroad, separation is seen between those advancing harmful industrial projects and those being impacted by them, but also between the different communities being impacted, and sometimes as a result of divide and conquer strategies by those perpetrating the harm. Where crises occur and those affected are able to reach across divides and band together in resistance, separation is revealed to be illusory, and a sense of oneness is restored. As Eileen notes, such alliances can shift the balance of power from companies as the perpetrators of climate harm to communities. Eileen is careful to point out, however, that oneness does not come easily. Studies have shown that race and class influence who lives closest to toxic facilities, with race correlating most strongly as a result of a long history of discriminatory policies. Old patterns of dominance and exclusion die hard, she writes. I have intentionally started trying to ground myself in the spiritual and ecological truth that we are all one, alongside the painful reality that some people are treated as expendable, whether by politicians, polluting industries, or the police. Climate change is a perfect issue for teaching us not to lose sight of this complexity, since it affects everyone in the world, though not equally. Eileen observes that climate injustice is often perpetuated by a refusal to acknowledge the impacts of past and ongoing discrimination against Native peoples, African slaves and their descendants, and immigrant groups. This rejection of historical truth can be seen as another aspect of the illusion of separation, a separation from our history. Participating in a protest of the Line 3 pipeline at the headwaters of the Mississippi in Minnesota, Eileen was struck by how Native-led climate actions are often grounded in prophecy. The seventh fire prophecy in particular predicted, as she learned from a fellow protester, that people of different colors would come together at this time of the crossroads. Eileen found her own spiritual insight about the illusion of separation affirmed in the words of the Penobscot writer Sherry Mitchell, who writes, "The illusion of separation has prevented us from unifying for millennia, using fear and superstition to create shadows and divisions. We are on the precipice of an evolutionary leap, one that requires us to transcend our differences and integrate into a more harmonized way of being. All of our prophecies speak of this time, the time when the people of the world would begin waking up and unifying for the protection of life." As Eileen notes, Indigenous people are not alone in understanding this as a pivotal era. Buddhist systems theorist Joanna Macy popularized the notion of the Great Turning, a shift from our current industrial growth society to a life-sustaining civilization. The Great Turning is seen as the third major revolution in human history, following the agricultural and industrial revolutions, and it has three dimensions. One, holding actions, efforts that resist and slow damage to people and the environment and allow critical time to enact change. Two, transformation of systems in which new societal structures and institutions bring about a more sustainable economy. And three, a shift in consciousness, a new way of seeing the world, recognizing our interconnectedness and creating a broader sense of identity and responsibility. I've been reading and hearing about the Great Turning for at least a decade, and it's a beautiful idea. I love a big, juicy, spiritual idea that reflects basic human goodness and oneness and points to the potential for a better age out of a place of struggle and difficulty. But I'm also a skeptical person, a little by nature, a little by nurture, and it can trip me up. I can be caught waiting for proof, disheartened by the messiness and sometimes the outright ugliness of things. I waver. I wish I could feel the sort of momentum of inevitability that the idea of a great turning suggests. I wish I could believe in prophecy flat out. I wish I could know how this is all going to go and that it's all going to work out just fine. But I don't think we can know that. But let's entertain the idea for a moment. If we were in the midst of a great turning, what would it look like? While things seem dire today, it's reassuring to look back and glimpse a melting of the illusion of separation and perhaps some seeds of a great turning as far back as 1970, when the original Earth Day galvanized, as we heard, Republicans and Democrats, rich and poor, urban dwellers and farmers, and business and labor leaders. Those folks were engaging in a holding action, resisting and slowing harm. In the 56 years since, we've seen tremendous holding action on a global scale, from public demonstrations to civil disobedience to divestment campaigns to reparation lawsuits, and these have often found some success. For an example of transformation of systems, clean energy technology is one exciting place to look. Advances in solar, for example, even in the last 5 years, have been astounding. As David Wallace Wells reported this past week in the New York Times, the energy think tank Ember found that in 2025, renewables provided sufficient power to meet all new electricity demand worldwide. In fact, new renewable generation exceeded the rise in electricity demand, which meant that fossil fuel generation actually fell. The International Energy Agency's Global Energy Review found the same, that the year's green energy explosion managed to reduce worldwide fossil fuel use in electricity generation, even as demand grew. Transformation of systems can also mean new ways of organizing. In the wake of the failure of COP30 to move forward last November on the roadmap to phase out fossil fuels, this week brings the convening of a new international coalition, the first conference on transitioning away from fossil fuels, hosted by Colombia and the Netherlands, with participation from over 53 nations. The object is to initiate a concrete process through which a coalition of committed countries, subnational governments, and relevant stakeholders can identify and advance enabling pathways to implement a progressive transition away from fossil fuels, creating sustainable societies and economies. As for the third element, a shift in consciousness, Common Ground itself makes a great case that this is happening. Again and again in her travels, Eileen Flanagan encountered people acting, often at great personal risk, from a deep sense of interconnectedness, not only with humanity, but with all of life on Earth. These examples are relatively large in scale, but is it possible to find evidence of a great turning underway even closer to home? As we enter a week of activities here at UU Mount Airy with our own climate justice revival, what would the great turning look like? How would we become a part of it? Can we make it so by acting as if? I'm excited about this week's revival activities. I hope many of us will take advantage of the opportunity to learn, explore, and envision the future together. Join this Tuesday evening for a workshop about how we can help to defund fossil fuels by making changes in where we do our banking and what credit cards we use. Come for Thursday night's program, a hands-on workshop to help us build practical readiness skills for everyday emergencies and long-term resilience. It's not comfortable to think about, but climate emergencies are already a part of our present reality, and we need to be ready. Friday, as Reverend McKinley mentioned, is climate-themed family movie night, Fern Gully. Can't wait for that. And Saturday is an opportunity to envision how our congregation and our grounds can help to support resilience in the larger community. Earth Day 2026 met the moment with the theme, Our Power, Our Planet, reflecting the fundamental truth that environmental progress doesn't depend on any single administration or election. It's sustained by daily actions of communities, educators, workers, and families protecting where they live and work. May it be so.
Thank you, Susan. I invite you to remain seated and dwell on those words. We're going to listen to a song that's one that we've sung here many times. It's called We Shall Be Known by Mom Muse, and this version is from the UUA's General Assembly Choir. We have a video that Connor can bring up on the next slide, please. Thank you. Can you crank the volume, please, Connor?
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Thank you. So my job is just to wrap us up and invite us to any or all of these events. So the Climate Justice Revival, again, when I saw the curriculum and the resources that were on it last year when I was planning out the worship calendar for this year, I said, oh, that looks like fun, and it's in April, and it's something I don't have to think about for a long time. And then we got approached by this group saying, we understand that the Unitarian Universalists have been doing climate justice work and wanted to partner with you to apply for this grant from the William Penn Foundation. So all of a sudden, I was having to think about the climate justice revival back in September when I was still trying to get my feet under me. And what we have been learning, and what Susan and Fern and Sandy and I have been learning about, is really how to start having this conversation and imagining the possibilities. We don't know what this is going to turn into in our great turning. We need your help to imagine that and to put the pieces together. We have some ideas, but we want to hear more from you. But the big question is this: how are we a part of the great turning here? How can we steward our land, our resources, our building to be more of a climate justice-centered, climate resilience hub? Is that solar panels? Is that providing power, backup power to people when a storm goes out? Is it celebrating Earth Day? We don't know. We need your help to figure it out. That's the invitation. That yes, there is a lot of work to be done, and we don't have to do all of the work for the world. We're called to do the work that we have to do right here. So here's what we have going on this week. We have the Aligning Your Money with Your Values workshop that Susan mentioned. That's Tuesday evening at 7:30. If you're wondering about where your investments are and how to untangle those from fossil fuels or perhaps war profiteering right now, right? This might be something for you. This is also open to the rest of our community, right? It's not just for church members. On Thursday, Climate Preparedness with Dominique London, also 7:30 here at the congregation. And both of those workshops are in person or online, right? We'll use our worship Zoom for those who want to attend online, and our presenters know that's going to happen. Friday, we have our family movie night, watching Fern Gully. That's going to be around 5:30 here in the sanctuary. Bring your PJs, bring your pillows, bring your stuffies. I'll provide popcorn and drinks, but you're welcome to bring other healthy snacks. Then Saturday morning, if you're feeling called to do some hands-on in the dirt work, our garden folks are going to be in the garden starting, I think, at 9 a.m. And then at 11 a.m., after you're done getting sweaty and putting your fingers in the dirt, come over and cool down and help us brainstorm and think about how we might be part of climate justice and climate work here at UU Mount Airy. Lunch will be provided. I would appreciate it if you could RSVP beforehand so I know how much food to order from Malilani Cafe. We can do vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free options from that place, so it's been a really great resource for us. And then from 11 to 3, we're going to be spending time scheming, dreaming, making plans, getting excited, and trying to come up with how we want to use our space, our green space, our building, to be part of this climate resilience work. And the hope is that not this year, but going into next year, that makes us eligible for this grant money that's up to $300,000 to do climate resilience work, not just for this congregation, but for Northwest Philadelphia, right? To be part of the greater turning, to find our piece of the puzzle and then help spread that message out. That's the game plan. So we hope that you are excited by that, and we welcome any more new ideas. The other idea we had was a book group, because we love book groups. So we're going to read The Great Common Ground by Eileen Flanagan, and I'm going to turn over to Sandy to make her pitch to you to join our book group.
Yes. That's all I have to wait a second. Is this?
It's
is
on.
This on? Yeah, okay, fine. This is what I want to tell you to get and to read. Oh.
I'll give you a stand.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This is probably the best book I've ever read. And I've read how many thousands of books. And it is simply a delight to read something that makes sense all the way through. And her sense includes her own personality, her own beliefs. She is a Quaker, and she comes from a long line of Irish Quakers. I don't know if you knew about them. I didn't know much about them until she tells about her own family a little bit. And it's so exciting. What I want to do is read to you very briefly something that was in the foreword, and it's a very short foreword. It's only 3 pages. How many books do we get these days that have 3?
Go ahead and read your line, Sandy. We're all waiting on tenterhooks.
The stories featured in Common Ground, and that's this book, Common Ground, by Eileen Flanagan, and we can probably tell she's Irish. The stories features in Common Ground powerfully illustrate how the fossil fuel industry benefits from racial and class segregation. This is by Kumi Naidu. He is a South African black man activist. And while frankly acknowledging that the impacts of environmental and climate destruction are grossly unequal, this book highlights that we ultimately have a stake in protecting the earth, our shared home, without suggesting the unequal risks of activism. Within and between countries, Eileen offers different models for people to work together. Grounded in her Quaker spiritual tradition, she frames this germination solidarity as a potential positive result of environmental breakdown we are experiencing. So it can be good. What we are in right now can be good, can come out well, as Julianne of Norwich told us.
Amen.
Years and years ago.
Thank you, Cindy.
I want to read a few.
Okay, but we got our thing going at 12:30, so we need to go ahead and wrap up. I'm sorry, but I'll let you give your pitch back downstairs as well.
Yeah, I'll do that.
If you would like to learn more about this book, find Sandy downstairs. If you need help ordering it, we're going to help you order it. And if you're interested in the book club that will start up after this week when we're not so busy, please come find us. Thank you, friends. All right, we are going to extinguish our chalice here. We invite you downstairs for coffee hour afterwards. For those who are sticking around for our training program, we'll have food downstairs for you. Friends who are online, if you're wanting to join the training program afterwards, we're going to stop the Zoom, but then we're going to open it back up. So if you're online with us on Zoom and you want to come to the training afterwards, we're going to shut it down and then we'll start it back up. So just log in after we do. All right, beloveds, we extinguish this chalice here. Would you read these words with me from Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones? We extinguish this flame. Would you rise in body or in spirit to sing a hymn that long time you will know was coming from the very beginning, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. The words are on the screen. I invite you to sing along as you are willing and able. Blue Boat Home. Thank you, beloveds. Hear these words of blessing. You are made of stardust, made out of the very bones of our earth. We are connected. There is no separateness. May we take that power and that calling to be good to the earth and to ourselves this day and in all the days to come. May it be so. Amen. Thank you, beloveds. Have a great week.
There's pizza and other food downstairs. Try to grab some sustenance for yourself. We're going to try to start the training around 12:30. Training will be downstairs in Fellowship Hall.